Informative, interactive, and always interesting. This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall.
Welcome back. David Hertel in for Aaron and Natasha. Well, as we all know, a by-election will be held in Saint-Henri-Saint-Adele on Monday, March 13th. That's next Monday. 11 candidates are in the running to fill the seat vacated by former Liberal MNA and Liberal leader Dominique Anglade. Two parties are leading the way, the Liberals and Quebec Solidaire. We spoke with the Liberal candidate yesterday, and today we are joined by Quebec Solidaire's Guillaume CLICHE-RIVARD. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
So, you were the Quebec Solidaire candidate last time around during the general election. You lost to Dominique Anglade by less than 3,000 votes. How's the campaign been going?
Campaign's been really good. Actually, we quite frankly never stopped campaigning. We kind of knew a little bit what was coming up probably in the next month. So we continued our work on the field. And once the campaign was declared officially, where we were ready to hit the ground running, and that's what we've been doing. So right up to the finish line next Monday.
So you've lived in the riding for over 7 years, correct?
Yeah, almost close to 10 years.
Oh,
I've been
10
in the
years.
Southwest.
Okay.
I worked there as well.
As an immigration lawyer, right? Correct?
Yeah. Exactly. I have my immigration law firm here in Little Burgundy, and I live in Saint Henri neighborhood. So I am pretty much in the center of the riding. Yeah.
So on the ground, what are the key issues you're hearing voters talk to you about?
Well, no surprise, being the housing crisis being at the very center of what we're talking with people. We need to build social housing, obviously, but we need also to control the rents. People are having more and more difficulty to pay their rents, and each year when there's an increase, it's harder and harder for families to stay. And this is obviously tied to the cost of living crisis and the inflation that we're living in at this time. So altogether, this brings up a mix that becomes very difficult for families at the end of the month. And obviously, we're speaking a lot of climate change, the environmental crisis. People are very concerned. And I'm trying to distinguish myself by having a very positive and inclusive dialogue on inclusion. I think as an immigration lawyer, that's my main key and my main role as well. So trying to build a better Quebec, more open Quebec, more inclusive Quebec. And I think people are very happy about this.
So, for example, on housing, I mean, regardless who wins the by-election on Monday, you or the Liberals, it will remain an opposition seat. So what would you do? What will Quebec Solidaire do about the housing crisis from opposition?
Yeah, the role of the opposition is to put pressure, right? I mean, it's to call the government into making changes. It's to make sure that projects that are being promised are being implemented. So that is the role of an opposition M&A. And we have a lot here. There's the Bridge Bonaventure sector that needs to be developed, and we need more social housing, and we need for the money to follow, the Quebec government money to follow in housing and to make sure this is happening. So this is, for example, a case where we will put pressure. We can also try and improve bills or regulations. For example, the Clause F in leases that allows an increase without limitation for the rents in the first 5 years, even new construction. We've been putting pressure to delete this clause because families living in new constructions are being surprised every year with increases, sometimes around 10, 11, 12% every year, which are absolutely impossible for them to cover. So there's a lot of pressure and role we can do at the National Assembly to try and push and pressure. Of course, the CAQ is and will remain the government, but the real question is, who do you trust the most to make that opposition, to make those changes? And I believe Quebec Solidaire has been the party that's been speaking the most of logement and housing in the last years, obviously, and I hope that people will recognize that.
During the last general election campaign, your leader, Guillaume Nadeau-Dubois, was very aggressive, courting the English-speaking community, not only in Montreal, but across Quebec. He came on CJ 800 regularly. I got to spoke to him several times. Also, English-speaking ads, and I understand even for this by-election, you're distributing literature in English, targeting the third of voters who are English-speaking in Saint-Henri-Saint-Adele. Now, of course, the same questions arise when we're talking about Quebec Solidaire and the English-speaking community. One, Quebec Solidaire is an independentist party, one, and two, it supported Bill 96. So what do you tell Saint-Henri-Saint-Adele English-speaking voters about those two positions?
Well, to be honest, I speak with them about what they're asking me, right? Whether they're immediate concerns, and obviously the platform is what it is, and I agree 100% with that platform, and I'm not going to hide the platform. Mm-hmm. Those are there, the votes were there, people know about it, I don't have to tell them. But this by-election, really people are telling me, are speaking to me about housing, really and truly, and cost of living. When someone has question on Bill 96, I can develop and detail them our position, and that was very clear that for example, the 6-month clause for newcomers, new immigrants to learn French would be abolished if Quebec Solidaire would take power. I was very clear, and I've been a strong voice for inclusion in those last 10 years. I took up so many fights against the CAQ government, but also against the federal government in favor of inclusion. So I'm going to keep on fighting this, and people know that I'm a true defensor of all rights and minority rights, and I will keep doing so. Obviously, this position from Quebec Solidaire needs to be more explained, more detailed, but there were some stuff in Bill 96 promoting French language, making sure that federal businesses are controlled by Loi 101 to make sure that, there's positive things here to improve French, but that shouldn't be done in a position or targeting or putting the finger on another community. That's the biggest problem of that bill.
And what do you tell voters about the independence issue?
Well, it is there, obviously, and I'm speaking about it, and it's not going to go anywhere else. We will have that project. It is a very inclusive project. It's with First Nation, with minorities, a very inclusive and positive Quebec that we will be building. This is within the platform, and I'm not here to hide the platform. I'm here to address people's concerns. If people have issues with that, I can fully understand, and this is their absolute rights to decide to vote for something different. However, this true election, this by-election, is very different from the general election last time. The election really here is about an opposition M&A, and to decide who do you believe will defend your interest the most against the CAQ, right? Nothing is going to change with regards to referendum in the next 3 years. There's the general election, which will decide that in 2026. But the real question is, with regards to housing, with regards to cost of living, with regards to the environment, whose party has been defending the most those issues in the last years? Quebec Solidaire is the one, and unfortunately, what the Parti Libéral has to offer in this sense, I find is not enough, not sufficient. The Liberals were in power 15 of the last 20 years. How come the housing crisis were not dealt with? How come the cost of living crisis hasn't been dealt with? Mm-hmm. The Liberal candidate's telling us he will improve and work on refurbishing 200 apartments here HLM in Little Burgundy. How come this was done by Madame Anglade during the whole years that she was here? Mm-hmm. This is the question we've been asking, and people know that Quebec Solidaire is more serious on housing.
All right, Guillaume CLICHE-RIVARD, I will leave it at that. I wish you all the best on Monday, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for your time.
Guillaume CLICHE-RIVARD, lawyer, candidate for Saint-Henri-Saint-Adele for Quebec Solidaire.
You're listening to Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall on CJAD 800.